Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope that you all had such a great Thanksgiving long weekend filled with good food and even better company. I know that I sure did. And now that we're back to business after the holiday, I want to dive into a game changing concept that can truly transform your business and your lifestyle. Today, we're going to talk about the value shift, moving from charging for time to charging for transformation. In other words, how I stopped selling time and I started selling outcomes. Whether you're a bookkeeper, a consultant, a creative professional, whatever your field may be, this shift is going to resonate. If you're an entrepreneur looking to level up and raise your prices without losing clients, then stick around. We're going to cover this from three different angles. We've got the bookkeeping and financial perspective, which is knowing your profit per client, the business perspective, which is positioning yourself as a results-based brand, and the lifestyle perspective, which is all about reclaiming your time by not trading hours for dollars. So, with that, let's get into it. First, let's address the elephant in the room, hourly pricing. For a long time, I charged clients by the hour simply because I thought that that's what I was supposed to do. If you're doing the same, like billing $100 or $200 per hour for your services, you might be in a place where you're feeling comfortable doing this simply because it's straightforward. But here's the problem. If your business model is essentially 1 hour equals X dollars, then your growth ceiling is already set. No matter how skilled or passionate you are, there are only so many hours in a week, and there's only so much a client is willing to pay for an hour of your time. So in other words, by selling hours, you're automatically capping your income. If you think about it, if you want to double your revenue and you charge by the hour, you either have to double your hours, which that's just a recipe for burnout. Nobody wants that. Or you have to double your hourly rate, which the market might resist. It probably will resist. So it's a trap. I learned that time-based billing is fundamentally broken. Why? Well, for one, hourly billing actually punishes efficiency. If you get better and faster at your work, which of course comes with experience, then charging by the hour means that you're going to earn less for the same outcome that you deliver faster, which that's crazy, right? It's like being penalized for being good at your job. Hourly rates can also commoditize your expertise. Clients start comparing your hourly rate to others as if every provider is interchangeable as long as the hour is the same. Another issue is that hourly billing can create tension and mistrust. So, have you ever had a client maybe hesitate to call you with a question because the meter is running? Things like that. Hourly billing turns every client interaction into a tiny transaction. They might think twice about sending an email or hopping on a call because they don't want to incur the extra fees. And you, on the other side, might hesitate to go the extra mile unprompted simply because it's outside of your scoped hours. So that hesitation on both sides can really chip away at your trust and overall quality of your service. And it just doesn't feel good for anyone. But I think maybe perhaps the biggest flaw of selling time is this. Smart clients aren't really buying your hours. They're buying a result from you. They don't care if you spend 5 hours or 50 hours as long as their problem gets solved or their goal is achieved. As the saying goes, the value isn't in your stopwatch, it's in your strategy. Your job isn't to clock a certain number of hours. Your job is to deliver transformation for your client. And guess what? Transformation is worth way more than time, every single time. Once I fully grasped that, it's kind of like a light bulb went off. Why on earth was I selling 60 minutes of my time when what my client really wanted was a solved problem or a boost in revenue or peace of mind? They want a work of art. Yes, I'm calling bookkeeping a work of art. It is to some people, but they want a specific outcome, right? So how do we make this shift from hourly to value-based thinking? It starts with reframing what we're actually offering. Instead of saying, I offer 10 hours of bookkeeping or consulting per month, start thinking in terms of outcomes and results. For example, what is the outcome of those 10 hours of bookkeeping? Maybe the outcome is that the client's finances are tax ready with zero errors and they can save up to $25,000 in taxes at the end of the year. If you're a marketing consultant, maybe 5 hours of your time might result in a client's website conversion rate doubling, and which that alone is worth tens of thousands of dollars in new sales. The point is, when you connect your work to the value it creates, the equation changes completely. Charging for transformation, which is often called value-based pricing, it means that your price is based on the impact or the result you deliver and not the time that you spend. One way to figure out value-based pricing is to ask yourself, what is the result worth to my client? If I help a client clean up a 2-year financial mess and get them organized, that might save them tons of stress and potential penalties. What's that worth? And if I design a logo in 2 hours that becomes the face of a client's $1 million business, was it really only worth 2 hours of pay? Of course not. The value far exceeds the time input. So here's a little example from a great insight I came across. If you help a client avoid a $50,000 mistake, that service is not just worth your hourly rate time of a few hours. It could very much justifiably be a several $1,000 fee because you delivered huge savings. That's not a $200 job. That's a $2,500 to $25,000 transformation. Outcomes are an investment for the client, whereas hours are just a cost. When a client sees you as an investment in their success rather than a cost on their expense sheet, everything changes for them. Suddenly, you're not just competing with the cheaper freelancer who charges half your hourly rate. You're in a category of your own, providing something unique and something so valuable. You become a partner in their success, not just a vendor billing time. So, practically speaking, how do we start charging for transformation? It might mean creating packages or project rates that are tied to deliverables and results. Instead of billing for 5 hours of work, you might charge a flat $2,000 for monthly financial dashboard and strategy review. Not because it takes a certain number of hours, but mainly because it delivers the outcome of, say, clarity and strategy for a client's finances each month. The client isn't buying hours, they're buying peace of mind and expert guidance. So give your offers a compelling name and define what the result is that you're providing. Make it super clear. When I shifted to this approach, not only did it allow me to charge more, it also gave my clients way more clarity on what they were getting. They could see the specific value without doing mental math of hourly rates. In fact, setting a fixed price or a package can actually create confidence and position you as more of a premium, right? Clients appreciate the certainty and perceive you as a specialist who delivers. That is invaluable if you ask me. Now, I know all of this sounds great in theory, but of course you might be wondering, how do I know what outcome is worth what price? How do I avoid over or undercharging? And this is where our 3 pillars are going to come in to guide this shift. So let's break it down. Pillar 1 is the bookkeeping perspective. Know your true profit per client. As a numbers person, you all know I love my bookkeeping. I, of course, have to start here. Before you can confidently move into value-based pricing, you need to know your numbers, specifically what it actually costs you in time and resources to serve each client and what profit or loss each client or service is generating. So recently I've been working on budgeting the hours that I spend on each client every single month and then comparing that to their monthly fee. And let me tell you, the results were pretty eye-opening. In some cases, I found that a client paying a lower monthly fee was actually more profitable for me than a client paying double that, simply because the high paying client consumed way more of my time and energy. If I hadn't tracked that, I would have kept thinking that the high paying client was the star, right? Of course you want to keep the high paying client. I don't know. It's an interesting kind of concept when you really look at the numbers. And I know that I'm not alone in this realization. There are many entrepreneurs that discover that top line revenue can be deceiving. As one article noted, calculating true profit per client requires more than just looking at revenue. You might have a client who pays you $10,000 a month, but if serving them eats up a ton of hours, tools, and maybe some Advil for the stress, then their profit margin might be thinner than you think. In fact, plenty of businesses have high paying clients or big ticket projects that quietly drain their profitability because they consume an outsized amount of time or resources. And meanwhile, those smaller clients, they might be super efficient and profitable. So which client would you rather replicate? I think that the answer is fairly obvious. Here's a real example from my own experience. I was speaking with a client of mine who runs a service-based business, and on paper, his sales were really impressive. We're talking invoices for $100,000 on certain projects. But when we started digging into the numbers, we actually discovered that a few of his product and service lines that he was actually losing money. And that was all based on accounting for the costs and labor. Once we broke it down, he was losing money. It doesn't matter if the invoice is for $100,000 if it costs $110,000 to deliver the work. So we had to face that hard truth that revenue is not the same as profit. After factoring in his team's hours, materials, and overhead, some of those big projects were really underwater. And as the data showed, when we subtracted the true costs from the revenue, the result was pretty sobering. So this is why moving away from hourly billing doesn't mean ignoring hours completely. You still need to track your time and your costs internally. And I know tracking time isn't fun, but it is incredibly illuminating. You need that info to price smarter. And once you know how many hours go into a service and what those hours plus other costs truly cost you, think wages, software, your own time, all those things, then you can identify which services or clients are actually profitable to you. You might find that you need to raise prices for certain high maintenance clients, or maybe even let some clients go if they are consistently demanding too much for too little. And on the flip side, this knowledge helps you pinpoint your ideal clients, the ones who really, truly value your service and contribute healthily to your bottom line. Knowing your true profit per client gives you confidence to move to value-based pricing because at that point, you're no longer guessing. You have all of the data. For me, after calculating the hours and the profit per each of my clients, I could see which services I should position as premium offerings because they deliver a lot of value relative to my effort, and which services need to be tweaked or even need to be dropped. So get in the habit of calculating profit per client or per service. It can be as simple as making a spreadsheet of each client, listing all the revenue from them, and all the costs and time spent on them each month. The insights on this are going to guide you. The insights will guide you on this, where a value-based price can actually increase your profit and still be fair to the client. And remember, if something is taking too many hours for too little reward, that is a sign that it either needs to be a higher price due to the value you're giving, or you need to streamline how it's being delivered. So, pillar 2. This is the business perspective. Position yourself as a results-based brand. Let's talk about positioning and branding in your business. This is a bit more strategic, client-facing, that side of the value shift. Positioning yourself as a result-based brand means that in your marketing, your proposals, and in your conversations, you need to emphasize the outcomes you provide and not just the time that you spend. This was a really big mindset change for me. I had to stop selling myself as X hours of work and start selling myself as here's the result or the transformation that I provide. Think about how you present your services. If you're a graphic designer, for example, instead of saying, I charge $50 an hour to design logos, you might instead say, I design impactful brand identities that help businesses stand out and attract customers. This branding package is $5,000 and it delivers a complete logo suite in 2 weeks. Can you see the difference in that wording and in the way that we're presenting that? In the second approach, you're not even mentioning hours. You're selling the value to the client's business, standing out, attracting customers, and a clear deliverable, a logo in 2 weeks. You've productized your expertise into a package with a name and an outcome. Productized, I don't know if that's a word. But anyways, I love how this was framed on a podcast that I co-host. It's called The Entrefluential Life. We often talk about numbers and narratives, meaning that the data in your business or your numbers and the story you tell, the narrative, they have to align with one another. In one episode, we had a bit of a mind shift moment where we said, behind every price you set, there's a deeper story. It might reflect how you feel about yourself, your confidence, or what you believe that your service is worth. So if you've been charging $30 an hour because you're afraid that nobody's going to pay more, that's a narrative. And maybe it's one of self-doubt or feeling small. To position yourself as a results-based brand, you often have to rewrite that internal story. It's about stepping into the value that you provide. Maybe you fear charging a flat $2,000 fee for something that you used to bill $1,000 an hour for. But if that $2,000 package saves the client $10,000 or propels their business forward, both of you win. You have to believe in your value first before you can expect clients to. This is as much of a mindset shift as it is a business model shift. Practically, to rebrand around outcomes, start highlighting client success stories and client results. Instead of talking about your credentials or how hard you work, which is basically hours, talk about what changes for your clients after they work with you. Do they make more money? Do they sleep better at night, knowing their books are clean? Do they get their time back because you have handled all those tasks? Those are gold. Put them front and center. This positions you as a partner in your client's success rather than just another service provider. And partners by nature, they share in the value that they create. That means you charge more because you deliver more than just tasks. You deliver transformation. Also, make sure your pricing model supports this positioning. If you say that you're outcome focused, but then send an hourly itemized invoice, it sends a mixed message. So consider offering tiered packages, as many agencies and firms do, as you probably know, right? For example, a basic package solves a fundamental need. A growth package solves a bigger problem or adds strategy. And a premium package solves an advanced problem, or provides the most comprehensive result. Each tier should clearly state which outcome it provides and be priced accordingly. As the value goes up, the price goes up. Clients then choose based on the result that they want and not how many hours each is going to take you. That part is basically irrelevant to them at this point, right? In fact, when you lay out your offerings like this, clients often self select into higher tiers because they see the additional value. It's a great way to naturally upsell without being pushy. None of us like being pushy, right? You're just showcasing bigger transformations for those who truly want them. And one more benefit on the business side, by charging for results, you attract better clients because people who understand value are going to happily pay for value. They're not nickel and diming you over an hourly rate. They're evaluating their ROI. These are the clients who see you as a trusted advisor. And in contrast, clients who only want the cheapest deal per hour, they're usually not a great fit when you're trying to build a premium, sustainable business. So don't be afraid that switching to value-based pricing will scare everyone away. It might repel the bargain hunters, sure, but those probably aren't the right clients who are going to help you and your business grow anyways. Instead, you're going to start attracting clients who respect expertise and who are ready to invest in the outcomes that you offer. All right, so let's talk about pillar number 3, which is the lifestyle perspective. This is all about reclaiming your time and stop trading hours for dollars. This is the pillar that often gets us really motivated to change. How many of us started our businesses because we wanted freedom and flexibility, only to find ourselves working crazy hours, tied to our desk, and drowning in client work? Yes, that happened to me too. Absolutely, I've been there. If you price by the hour, especially as you get more successful and you take on more clients, you can inadvertently create a situation where you're working 60 plus hours a week and you're feeling trapped. We don't want that. You've essentially built a job for yourself at this point where you're the most overworked employee. Switching to value-based pricing is a pathway to reclaiming your time and your energy. Why? Well, because when you're not trading your hours for dollars, you break that direct link between time spent and income. No more hourly hustle where every extra task means logging more billable time late into the evening. Instead, if you charge a flat monthly fee or a project fee for a defined outcome, you can organize your work much more efficiently. If you find a way to deliver faster, or you use a tool or hire an assistant to help, you benefit from that efficiency by keeping the extra time or the extra profit. Under the old hourly model, working faster just meant that you billed fewer hours and essentially make less money. There's zero incentive to become more efficient. But under a value model, efficiency is your best friend. You could conceivably work a 20-hour week, but still earn what you used to make in 40 hours because you've priced according to results and not hours. That opens up time for business development, creative thinking, or even spending time with family and hobbies, that kind of thing, enjoying life. Crazy concept, right? Now, I want to emphasize something. Time is a non-renewable resource. You can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. Many of us entrepreneurs are guilty of pouring endless hours into our business, especially early on, thinking that's just the way it is when you start a business. And yes, building something great does take hard work. I'm not taking away from that, of course. But value-based pricing challenges the notion that your income is bound by your available hours. When you stop trading your hours for dollars and instead trade your expertise for dollars, you start to see the possibility of scaling and breathing room. Maybe you take on fewer clients, but at higher fees. So you work with only the ones you love and you do your best work for them. Maybe you productize part of your service so that some income comes with less hands-on effort. You can start designing a business that supports your life and not a life that is enslaved by your business. After making the shift, I found for myself that I had way more energy and creativity because I wasn't on the clock 24/7 mentally anymore. I wasn't thinking, okay, if I spend an extra hour tweaking this report, can I bill it? Instead, I thought, what will make this deliverable truly valuable to the client? I could pour my energy into that thought without worrying about nickel and diming my own time. Ironically, my work got better, my clients were happier because I wasn't counting minutes. I was focused on outcomes. And on a personal level, I gained back huge chunks of time. Even if I reinvested some of that time into growing the business or learning a new skill set, it was on my terms. I could take a breather, right? I could do it on my own terms. For instance, I could finish my work for a client in an efficient way and then actually take a Friday off to spend time with family or a passion project without feeling guilty. And isn't that partly why we strive to be entrepreneurs in the first place? If you're watching this and you're feeling a bit exhausted by the grind, or listening to this, I should say, then this pillar should speak to you. Imagine a business where you aren't chained to the clock, where working smarter actually benefits you, and where you have the breathing room to think strategically or just live your life. That is the promise when you shift to charging for transformation. It doesn't happen overnight, of course. You might have to transition existing clients or restructure offers, but it is absolutely possible. And trust me, once you experience this freedom, you will not want to go back to the other way. So before we wrap up, I want to circle back to that mindset piece because it truly underpins everything we've been talking about. We've talked about numbers, we've talked about how to present your value, but none of that sticks if we don't work on the beliefs and stories that we tell ourselves. And as I mentioned, on the Entrefluential Life podcast, which check it out if you haven't, we discuss behind every money decision or price point, there's usually a deeper narrative. Maybe you grew up being told to be humble and to not ask for too much, so you've kept your prices low. Maybe you've been charging hourly because you saw everyone else doing it and you assumed that that's the only way that clients would pay. So the story is clients won't pay a big upfront fee. Or maybe you're just afraid that charging based on value means that you have to truly deliver and you worry, what if my result isn't good enough? These are all mindset blocks that can sabotage your move to value-based pricing. I very much had to confront some of these myself. I had to realize that raising my prices or changing how I charge didn't mean that I was tricking anyone or being greedy. It meant that I was finally aligning my fees with the real value that I created. I had to build confidence that, yes, the outcomes I deliver are worth it. And if there were areas to improve on, I committed to improving them rather than simply lowering the price. It's a journey, right? It's a journey of personal growth as much as it is business growth. When you start charging for transformation, you're implicitly saying, my work changes things for the better, and that change is worth paying for. Saying that takes guts, but it's also very empowering. So I encourage you to examine the narratives that you have about your pricing. If you catch yourself thinking, who would pay that much for what I do? Flip it around and list what a client actually gets from you. Chances are it's a lot more than you give yourself credit for. And perhaps they got perhaps they got years of your experience, your creative flair. They got the relief of having something handled, increased revenue, avoided mistakes. Those are worth a lot. And often when you lay it out, you realize that the question is not who would pay for that, but rather how could they not if they truly understand the value. So with that, it brings us full circle. It's our job to communicate that value, and it's our job to charge for it accordingly. As we wrap up, let's recap a few of the key takeaways from this value shift. We started by seeing why the old hourly model can hold your business back. It sets an income ceiling, it discourages efficiency, and it can strain client relationship. Then we explored the concept of charging for outcomes, identifying the transformation that you provide and pricing it based on value and not time. We dove into the bookkeeping side of things, emphasizing how knowing your true profit per client or service gives you the clarity and the guts to set value-based prices that are profitable for you. We looked at the business side, which is all about learning to brand and package ourselves as outcome-driven professionals so that clients can see us as partners in their success and gladly pay for that. And of course, we can't forget the lifestyle win, breaking free from the hours for dollars trap to reclaim your time and energy, which is often the whole reason we pursued entrepreneurship to begin with. If you're an entrepreneur who's ready to level up, raise your prices, and build a business that doesn't run you ragged, this value-based approach is your next step. It might feel a bit uncomfortable at first. As we know, change always does, but I promise it's liberating and so rewarding. Your time is precious and your expertise is valuable. Don't sell yourself short by the hour. Sell the transformation that you bring. Thank you so much for spending some of your precious time with me today. I hope you found this insightful and it sparked some ideas for you to apply in your own business. If you're enjoying this content, make sure that you like and subscribe. It really helps. I appreciate it so much. And drop a comment. Have you tried value-based pricing, or is this something you're considering? I would love to hear your experiences or your concerns. Here's to working smarter, living better, and charging what you're truly worth. Until next time, have a fantastic week ahead. Let's go make some great things happen.